Digital environments are optimized for engagement, not human flourishing. Every ping, badge, and infinite scroll competes for a slice of the same finite cognitive systems that allow us to plan, focus, and make good decisions. When those systems are taxed beyond capacity, we don't simply feel busy. We become reactive, distracted, and less strategically capable. The result is a chronic depletion of attention, a drift towards shallow work, and a persistent background hum of anxiety that undermines long-term well-being. Information boundaries, properly designed, are not acts of deprivation. They are cognitive infrastructure, deliberate structures that regulate the input, processing, and flow of digital information so that technology reliably serves our values. This video lays out a tripartite model for building those boundaries: systemic, technical, temporal, spatial, physical, and relational or social, supported by practical implementation roadmap and measurement framework. The goal is not to use less technology for its own sake, but to use the right technology in the right way, at the right time, in service of what matters. Human cognition has constraints. Working memory can only hold a limited number of elements at once. Executive function, our capacity for planning, flexible thinking, and self-control draws from a limited pool of mental resources. In environments designed for perpetual novelty, we switch context frequently, from document to inbox, from chat to calendar, from feed to feed, Facebook to Instagram. Each switch incurs a cost. Attention splinters, the residue from the prior task lingers, impeding deep engagement with the next. Over time, the system that helps you prioritize, inhibit impulses, and make strategic choices becomes fatigued. Three intertwined forces drive the decline. Cognitive overload appears when the volume or complexity of inputs outstrips processing capacity. Confusion rises and forward motion stalls. Decision fatigue accumulates as we adjudicate endless micro choices: open, reply, click, scroll, leaving fewer resources for high-stakes decisions. Attention residue persists when we hop tasks, leaving mental echoes that blunt memory and deep focus. These forces degrade performance while creating the illusion of productivity, frantic activity masquerading as progress. Add the psychological strain of digital clutter, always on channels, unread counts, and the ambient expectation of immediacy, and you have a recipe for stress, irritability, and diminished satisfaction. This is not a call to abandon technology. It is a call to wield it with intention. One useful stance comes from digital minimalism. Choose a small set of high-value uses aligned with deeply held goals and willingly miss the rest. This reverses the default relationship with tools. Instead of asking, "What can this do?" you ask, "What do I need, and which tools demonstrably serve that need?" Intentionality doesn't arise from willpower alone. It emerges from clear values and enforceable structures. That is where a boundary architecture earns its keep. Two design principles underline the architecture. First, goal-centric alignment. Boundaries must be tailored to your values and roles. But what is extraneous for one person may be essential for another. Second, audit before prescription. Quantify current use, identify triggers, and isolate high versus low value behaviors before imposing rules. The right restriction at the wrong bottleneck fails. The right friction at the right bottleneck liberates attention. So let's take a look at the tripartite model of information boundaries. An information boundary is a deliberately imposed constraint that governs digital input and response. The model operates across three tiers. Tier 1, systemic or technical boundaries. Modify your devices, your apps, and interfaces to make low-value behaviors harder and high-value work much easier. Tier 2, the temporal and spatial or physical boundaries, Use time and space to enforce intent, creating periods and places where access is off by default. Tier 3, relational and expectation boundaries. They reset the social contracts that drive compulsive responsiveness by communicating norms and availability. So let's dive in deeper to Tier 1, okay? Systemic boundaries and digital friction engineering. Persuasive design thrives on accessibility, novelty, and variable rewards. Systemic boundaries re-engineer the environment so that attention capture becomes inconvenient and meaningful work becomes the path of least resistance. Let's take notification triage and control, because notifications invert agency. They push into your day whether or not the content matters. So you should disable all non-essential alerts, badges, all across all of your devices, and convert push to pull. Check on your terms. Use an operating system feature like Do Not Disturb or Focus Mode or per app timers to halt ambient interruption while preserving critical channels. You can use calendar reminders, emergency calls, team critical alerts. The aim is not zero communication, it is intentional communication. Interface de-optimization, colorful, animated interfaces, maximize salience and drive impulse engagement. Grayscale mode reduces visual intensity and lowers the compulsion to tap. Hide feeds and counters from first view. Remove biometric autofill for entertainment apps so login friction creates a natural pause. Set home screens to show only the apps you deliberately intend to use daily. Minimalism at the point of entry curbs mindless initiation. App curation and default pathways. Delete or offload apps that do not serve clear goals. For necessary but tempting platforms, constrain access routes. Desktop only, specific time windows, no mobile installs. Create single-purpose launchers, bookmarks that go directly to a necessary function. For example, your project board, rather than to attention sinks. Another example is a social home feed. The more steps it takes to engage in low-value behavior, the less you will do it. Let's talk about email and communication protocols. Email becomes chaotic when it is an interrupt-driven stream. Batch processing restores order. Check and respond at defined intervals rather than constantly all day. Use filters, rules, and labels so high-value messages surface and low-value ones accumulate for later. Standardize your templates for common replies to reduce decision overhead. Most importantly, set expectations, state typical response windows and signatures or autoresponders. Normalize non-immediacy by design rather than apology. Let's talk about search and social usage rules. Define why, where, when, and how before you engage. Why am I opening this tool? Where will I go first? When will I stop? How will I capture what I came for? Pair platforms with task-specific checklists so visits are bounded by purpose. Close loops by capturing outcomes in a trusted system. Notes, task managers, things of that nature before you leave the platform. So let's get into tier 2, temporal and spatial boundaries. Even the best technical friction can be overridden if access is always available. Physical boundaries protect focus by designating periods and places where digital input is absent or scarce. Time blocking and energy alignment, they allow you to schedule deep work in blocks that align with your peak cognitive hours. Protect those blocks with calendar holds and literal door closed policies. Place low value or reactive tasks like your feeds and inbox, your administrative chores. Keep those in short, time-boxed windows at lower energy times. Time blocking is not rigid. It's not like micromanagement. It is a commitment to match task demands to mental energy and to keep priorities from being displaced by noise. Set a digital curfew and a pre-sleep buffer. Blue light and late night stimulation interfere with sleep and the quality of your sleep. Establish a nightly shutdown ritual, one or 2 hours before bed. No screens, low light, analog, wind down, like picking up a book to read, stretching, journaling. Consistent sleep hygiene compounds cognitive dividends the next day. You get sharper attention, steadier mood, and a greater resilience to distraction. Tech-free zones and distance rules, they designate specific spaces, your bedrooms, your dining areas, a dedicated reading corner as device-free. When doing high focus work, keep your phone in another room or out of reach. Physical distance is overlooked but powerful. Even a silent phone within sight draws attention. Paper, notebooks and whiteboards, and printed materials, they can reduce temptation to alt-tab your way out of focus. This is friction by absence. Sometimes the best boundary is to leave the device behind. Go for a walk, attend a meeting, or share a meal with no phone on your person. These intervals restore presence and support mind wandering, a neural process linked to creativity and insight. Absence also reduces the reflex to capture rather than experience, because not every thought or moment needs a digital trace to be meaningful. Let's talk about tier 3, relational and expectation boundaries. Much of your compulsive engagement is social, not technical. Without renegotiating expectations, personal boundaries can create friction. Relational boundaries clarify when you are available, how to reach you, and which channels are appropriate for which requests. Communicating availability, you can do that by publishing clear norms to your colleagues, your clients, and your loved ones. Your standard response windows, the channels you find important to monitor for urgent issues, and your off hours. Use signatures, shared docs, or team charters to make norms explicit. Turn off work notifications outside agreed upon hours to protect your personal time. Leaders who set a model for these norms reduce hidden stress and encourage healthier team patterns. Defining escalation paths. Not all messages are equal. Establish a tiered system. Scheduled meetings and email for most matters. Chat for collaborative, quick questions. A single channel or contact for true emergencies. And when a request is urgent, define what urgent means and what information must accompany such a request. Clarity trims the noise of false urgency. Fear of missing out is often a proxy for a lack of intentional connection. Replace passive digital touchpoints with scheduled high-quality conversations. Tell friends and family why you're setting boundaries, to be more present, to be healthier, to be genuinely connected to them. Many people respond not with resistance, but with relief, adopting similar changes themselves. And this is the paradox of digital minimalism. It's often resulting in more, not less, satisfying human contact. Also, you can make strategic reinvestments. You can fill the void on purpose. You cannot subtract compulsive habits without adding nourishing ones. Reclaimed time must be reinvested in activities that produce intrinsic satisfaction, mastery, creation, movement, or deep relationships, so your reward system shifts from external triggers to internal progress. Design strenuous restorative leisure. High quality leisure is not necessarily passive. It can be effortful and still renewing. Learning an instrument, practicing a craft, vibe coding, building furniture, cooking from scratch, tending a garden, solving puzzles, playing chess, writing or journaling, whatever you want. These pursuits train your attention, embed feedback loops, and leave tangible traces of progress. And you should also be committing to long-form reading. The capacity to sustain attention grows with use. Protect time for books and long essays in areas that challenge and delight you. Pair reading with note-taking or commonplace books to consolidate memory and ideas. Analog reading, especially in the evening, doubles as a digital curfew and a cognitive reset. Move your body, sharpen your mind, because regular exercise is not just physical, it enhances mood regulation and executive function. Walking meetings, midday training sessions, or even yoga can be part of your boundary architecture. Movement breaks also mark transitions between deep work blocks and reactive tasks, clearing attention residue. Analog tools as companions, paper planners, index cards, whiteboards, they create a tactile break from screens while you're keeping your thinking organized. Use them to plan the day, capture ideas, and track small wins. Analog captures are frictionless and biodegradable. No alerts, no rabbit holes, just clarity. So let's create an implementation roadmap. A 30-day boundary reset, lasting change, and structured experiments, not vague intentions. A 30-day reset provides enough time to interrupt compulsive loops, test replacements, and collect data. So at week 0, you should audit and set intentions. Before changing anything, you need to measure. Track time by app, count notifications, and note your high and low energy hours. Identify top triggers where you get pulled in. Write a short intention statement like, what are you protecting and why does it matter? Share this with a partner, a team member, or a friend to create a little bit of accountability. Then at week 1, remove non-essential inputs and add friction. Turn off non-critical notifications. Enable a single focus mode that whitelists only essential apps. Move devices out of the bedroom. Grayscale your phone. Delete or offload apps that do not serve defined goals. Create desktop-only access for tempting platforms. Set 2 email windows and update your signature with the response times. At week 2, you need to be protecting time and space. Time block 2 daily deep work sessions aligned with your peak energy. Defend them with calendar holds. Establish tech-free zones. Implement a 60 to 120 minute digital curfew and a shutdown ritual. Move your phones out of sight during focus blocks and schedule a few short, bounded windows for low-value scrolling, then stick to them. At week 3, you'll be reinvesting and reconnecting. Add high-quality leisure, long-form reading 3 times this week, 1 skill-building session, 1 longer walk without a phone, and replace passive online check-ins with 2 intentional conversations. Notice how your mood and your focus and your sense of presence shifts as replacements take root. Week 4 is where you get more selective about reintroduction and the rules you will set. Bring back only the tools that demonstrably support your goals. For each tool, define rules: the scope, what you use it for, the schedule, when, the channel, is it desktop or mobile, and the friction, no notifications, log in each time. Document the rules and post them where you work. And then create a quick start checklist. If a month feels daunting, begin with a day. Disable non-essential notifications, create a focus mode. Grayscale your phone and remove 5 low-value apps. Schedule 2 90-minute focus blocks. Put the phone in another room. And then set a 90-minute digital curfew. Charge devices outside of the bedroom. And add 1 high-quality leisure block and 1 intentional conversation. Measurement and sustaining change. You improve what you measure. Track both objective and subjective indicators weekly. Objectively, monitor total screen time, app-specific usage, notification counts, and the number of deep work hours completed. Subjectively, rate your focus quality, your energy, your mood, and the sense of connection. Keep notes about triggers that broke through and tactics that actually worked. Then establish a weekly review. What boundaries held? Where did friction fail? Which replacements felt restorative? Adjust your rules accordingly, and if a rule creates undue friction for a valuable task, refine it. If a rule is too loose for a high-risk behavior, tighten it. Increase friction, shorten windows, or move access to desktop only. And then you should be planning for relapse and resistance, because we're all human. Expect pullbacks. Persuasive systems are designed to reclaim your attention. Build in supports. an accountability buddy, team norms that reflect your availability, or apps that lock distracting platforms during focus blocks. Reduce the number of entry points where possible. Fewer devices, fewer logins, fewer just-in-case expectations. Celebrate compound wins. Boundaries are not about austerity, they are about sovereignty. Notice the moments of quiet pride. When you finish a deep work session, read a chapter uninterrupted, or sit with loved ones without the itch to check your phone. These are the dividends your architecture pays. So I want to give you a closing argument. We do not live in a neutral information environment. Our tools are powerful, so are the incentives. When left to default settings, engagement platforms extract attention in ways that hollow out the very faculties that make us effective and fulfilled. The answer is neither Luddism or wishful self-control. It is design. In a tripartite boundary architecture, systemic, temporal, spatial, and relational, transforms technology from a constant source of interruption into a precise instrument of value. Systemic boundaries create digital friction where you need restraint and smooth pathways where you need speed. Temporal and spatial boundaries give your brain the quiet it needs to think deeply and rest well. Relational boundaries reset expectations so respect and presence replace the reflex of immediacy. Strategic reinvestment strengthens your attention with pursuits that reward effort, foster mastery, and deepen relationships. When you build this architecture, your days stop being shaped by algorithms and start being shaped by intention. You experience clearer mornings, more satisfying work, steadier mood, and richer connection. And you remember that your attention is not just a resource to allocate, but a life to inhabit. Boundaries are how you choose that life on purpose.